People from around the Midwest have flocked to the Iowa State Fair to see livestock, taste some novelty foods, and hear from GOP presidential candidates. The fair provides them with a platform to address voters directly in the early primary state ahead of the first debate, which is August 23rd in Milwaukee.
Our Musadiq Bidar is at the Iowa State Fair and has more on how this year's campaign events are being structured.
The Iowa State Fair is in full swing, and several GOP presidential candidates are expected to make an appearance here today. Governor Doug Burgum, Mayor Francis Suarez, Perry Johnson, Larry Elder, and former Vice President Mike Pence are all expected to make a stop here at the State Fair. Of course, former Vice President Mike Pence was here yesterday. He participated in the Des Moines Register Soapbox. It's a popular event that many of the candidates are taking part in, except former President Donald Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Tim Scott. They're not doing the Soapbox this year. Another event that some of the candidates are taking part in is these one-on-one interviews with Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds. The Fairside Chats, as she calls them, is an opportunity for fairgoers to get to know the candidates on a policy and personal level. All of the candidates were invited to participate in these interviews. Former President Donald Trump is the only one who declined to do that. Of course, Trump has had his disagreements in recent months with Iowa's Governor Kim Reynolds, calling her out for not endorsing him in this caucus process. She has said she will remain neutral and help out all the candidates as best as she can. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is also in the state today. He is holding 7 events as he attempts to visit all 99 counties in Iowa. DeSantis and former President Donald Trump will both be here at the State Fair on Saturday. Anne-Marie, David.
For more on what's playing out at the Iowa State Fair, let's bring in former RNC spokesperson and founder of Proteon Public Affairs, Kevin Sheridan. Also with us is CBS News political contributor and Democratic strategist Joel Payne. Gentlemen, welcome. When Mike Pence spoke yesterday at the Iowa State Fair, one person in the audience called him a traitor, but then he was booed by other attendees. Kevin, what does that say when the crowd welcomes you that way?
The person who called him a traitor was booed?
If it's not traitor, they would have been booing and yelling something else. It's a tough venue. It's the first time where all these candidates are all in the same place. And, this has been the site of some historic gaffes for candidates that I've worked for in the past. It's also been a place that's produced, Iowa's a state that has produced a lot of winners of the caucus that haven't necessarily gone on to win it, but it's still an extremely important place to show that you can connect with voters, that you can withstand the hard hits. Republican voters are not in the mood for any weakness right now. So any criticism or hard times at the fair is going to need to be met with force and strength, and that's what they're looking for right now. Can you stand up to the media? Can you stand up to Donald Trump? Can you stand up to his voters? Can you connect? That's what they're looking for right now.
Before I go to you, Joel, I just want clarification. Was Mike Pence booed, or the person that called Mike Pence a traitor? That person was booed.
The question was a little funky. One person in the audience called him a traitor, but then was booed by other attendees.
Okay. Ooh, that's interesting. All right, Joel.
A little wonky question.
So keeping that in mind, that reaction, my question to you is just like, how much of an indicator, are the voters in Iowa? How much do they sort of reflect voters beyond these early states? I mean, these people are well informed, they're really invested, they want a personal connection with the candidate. That's not going to happen other places.
Yeah, you're asking the right questions. I imagine Kevin has spent some time on the ground in Iowa during primary season like I have. And what I know is that it is required political coursework, right, to press the flesh, to get to know the voters up close and personal. I do think there's a different universe in the Democratic primary or Democratic caucus versus the Republican caucus. In the Republican caucus, you've actually seen some real kind of out of left field results. Ted Cruz won, of course, in 2016 when it was contested. You've had folks like Rick Santorum win in the past who have not gone on to win a nomination. So it is ripe for a surprise outcome at the end that might not necessarily mean that's going to be the party's nominee. But in this cycle, it might be that type of a surprise outcome that could upend Donald Trump. Donald Trump, who has been essentially wire to wire leading the Republican field by and large, national polls, state polls. if Republicans who are not in favor of Donald Trump are able to pull off a surprise in Iowa, it could up in the field this time, unlike it would in past cycles. I think that's a different reality on the Democratic side, where it goes a little bit more to form.
Kevin, let's talk about Ron DeSantis. So he replaced his campaign manager, another change of staff. What do you make of this? What are Republicans supposed to make of it?
I think it's a response probably to some of his donors who wanted to see some change, want to see some positive momentum. But look, the campaigns go through a lot of changes at the top, and it sounds like he's just bringing in his chief of staff, so it's not a huge change. We'll really see if there's a big change in his message, if he starts to really connect on the ground. He's out there right now. I heard him doing a long interview yesterday where he's making the case that, if you want the results that Donald Trump promised in his first term, then he's going to be the one who's going to deliver this time, because it didn't necessarily work out for us completely. So we'll see if that connects. We'll see if that works. He's got to keep up his fundraising numbers. Obviously, he's got to show that his staff is appropriately sized, but that's kind of all inside baseball stuff right now. He's really got to see if he can connect with voters.
Kevin, you say it's not that big of a deal. Campaigns change staff. I mean, the only person above the campaign manager is a candidate who we could change out. So, I mean, it seems like it's a pretty big deal.
Well, and with this candidate, it sounds like a lot of it is with him and his wife. And I've worked for candidates like that before, where it doesn't necessarily matter what the campaign manager thinks about anything. The candidate is really running the campaign, and he may be doing that now. So it could be really on him, and at the campaign manager level, might not matter that much.
That's interesting. So, Joel, President Biden's been traveling through Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. Once again, he's talking about the economy. He's also talking about climate policies. As you know, he's been really trying to own and sell the economy, to the point of sort of coining the phrase Bidenomics. But I want to ask you about that. We do get, report after report that looks very good. David and I were just talking about the reports and whether anyone understands what the heck these reports mean, because all that really matters is how much is the price of eggs, or whatever it is.
Bingo.
So I want to ask you, Joel, about the strategy of President Biden aligning himself so close to an economy that is actually doing quite well. But if people don't feel that way, then it could be a problem.
Yeah, for sure. Really quickly, by the way, on what you were just talking about with Kevin, I think one of the failings of DeSantis is not doing that reboot in one storyline. It's been 3 stories of the DeSantis reboot that we've gone through. And that just shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the political media environment and understanding how to do that. And, they say campaigns are kind of microcosms of the type of government you'll run. They are indicators of how you'll lead the executive branch. And I think Ron DeSantis is not exactly showing well right now. But to your point about President Biden and Bidenomics, just really quickly, I guess what I would say is this: the economy is certainly not being experienced by Americans the way that the indicators would tell you. The indicators tell you the job production is there, twice the amount of jobs that Donald Trump created at this term in his presidency. Inflation down, where in the rest of the world inflation is up. So there's a good story to tell, but it's not being experienced by the American people. You have to, pardon the phrase, beat folks over the head with the messaging that the economy is better, that things are getting better, even if they're not feeling it in their own lives. Also, there's an interesting phenomenon that happens in polling when you ask people about, hey, what do you think of the economy? A lot of times it's, what do they think others think of the economy? Or what does my neighbor think of the economy? And if they hear bad news, they tend to reflect that. So if you're Joe Biden, you want to create a positive echo chamber about the economy. And I think that's what they're trying to do.
So before you guys go, I want to ask you a question about the fair. Because, as soon as I read food, then I just went down a food rabbit hole. That's all I care about is what can you eat at the state fair? But it occurred to me, when candidates come to Philadelphia, some of them feel an obligation to eat a cheesesteak. And it never goes well. They ask for ketchup, they want a knife and fork. They're judged very heavily on how they eat a cheesesteak. So I'm wondering, is there an expectation that the candidates will eat at the fair? And, I should ask you, Kevin, because you've worked with candidates, and Joel too. I mean, do you give them notes on how to approach, turn away from the camera or don't eat anything messy or anything along those lines?
It depends on the candidate, I think, but no, I'd let them have at it. There's so much food there that you really can't go wrong. Everything's fried and on a stick, so just pick something you like and go for it.
Yeah, you see Kevin and I both giggling because we probably had very similar experiences in this vein. I will say just really quickly, I know the question is about like do you give candidates notes? I will say I always tell a candidate if I'm advising them, be yourself, be genuine, because that will tell on you if you're not being your actual self. So in an environment like that, if you yourself and if you're genuine, that will come through. If you're Joe Biden and you trip on a word every now and then, but you're earnest and you're genuine, that'll come through. If you're Donald Trump and you're boorish and you're over the top, that'll come through. That's what I always tell a candidate. Be genuine, be true to yourself, voters will respond to it.
Also, if you're in Philly, don't call it a Philly cheesesteak.
What do you call it?
It's just a cheesesteak.
To everybody outside of Philly, it's a Philly cheesesteak.
David,
Y'all don't call it Philly cheesesteak?
David,
You see, now that's the topic we should have
put
discussed.
Swiss
This
cheese
is
on
a
the cheese.
scandal.
There you go. They know.
Just a cheesesteak.
Kevin and Joel, thank you
All right.
very much.
Learn something.
All right, be sure to join us all day Wednesday for special coverage of the Iowa State Fair. You can stream an hour-long edition of America Decides live from the fair at 5 p.m. Eastern.